Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Tonight, I have a special guest with me. I have drummer extraordinaire, Derek Roddy. Welcome back to the show, Derek.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Now, Derek, you have so freaking much going on. We have a lot to catch up on. But, Derek, I remember now the last time we talked, and you tell me a little bit about how you grew up in a very musical family. So tell people about growing up in the Roddy household.
Oh, lots of music and lots of Southern cooking. Pretty much. I mean, my brother played guitar. My dad played guitar and sang. My mom, great voice, piano. And I think I told you before, my dad even had a hit single on Billboard in the 80s on the country charts. But we were kind of involved in music. My brother and my cousin and I played in bands when I was really young. And, I just always had an affiliation for playing with people. I love playing with people. It's a fun thing, especially when you get to connect with other people and create. It's a neat thing. It's something I've been missing a lot lately. So that's kind of why I've got all of this stuff going on, just trying to be as creative as possible right now.
And still, when you were getting back to your childhood again, Derek, did you do any programs in school? I mean, did you do like band and jazz and all that kind of stuff?
I was in band in middle school, and then in high school I was in marching band.
Mm-hmm. So you got all that stuff in.
Yeah, well, the drum chops. I was really attracted to the DCI, the core drumming and that type of stuff back then. I still to this day watch every year the DCI championships, and it's just a really neat subgenre, I guess, of drumming. That's a cool little scene that goes on there, and just all type, anything that had to do with music or drumming, I was always involved with the kid. It's like I tried to play with as many people as possible in the neighborhood, which it's funny because in high school, I had my own band, the Deboning Method, and we disbanded. Everybody, a couple of the guys were in college, they were a little older, they graduated college, they went on with their careers. I found a couple more guys to play with, and we had like a second version of the band, and eventually we all went our separate ways as you grow up, whatever happens. But we reconnected about 2 years ago, all of us, and recorded all of the stuff that we never got a chance to record back in the 80s because, man, it was so dang expensive. Mm-hmm. You would spend, $5,000 or $6,000 just doing a demo back then, and, we couldn't afford that. We were just kids in high school, so we never really got a chance to record a lot of that music. So here we are 25 years later, recording some of the stuff, that we never did back then, and it came out actually pretty cool. There's tons of links on YouTube. If you just type in my name and the Deboning Method, it'll pull up some of the videos and stuff. But it's pretty neat. Yeah, we videotaped all of it and put it out there. So that was kind of like a blast from my childhood, and something that was like really important to me in my childhood too, because that was a very crucial time period in the development of me as a player. Deciding what type of music, because I was a big fan of all types of music. I mean, even before I discovered metal, I was into fusion and jazz and blues and country. We just had a musical household, like I said, and everybody kind of listened to something different. And thankfully, my brother, who's 9 years older than me, he brought a lot of stuff into the household that I probably wouldn't have gotten at such an early age, like Kiss and Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath, of course. Yeah, all of those influences basically went into that band, the Deboning Method, which was my first original band, and it was cool to be doing that stuff again and playing and occupying some time doing that. It's fun just to catch up with friends. I mean, some of these guys I literally hadn't spoken to in 15 years.
Wow.
So yeah, it was fun. If you're interested in that, if you want to check it out, we have a website. It's thedeboningmethod.com, and you can go there. We have videos and audio and stuff there, so you can check it out. It's kind of like old school thrash, like Creator kind of sounding stuff, Creator, Slayer, maybe a little bit of Terrorizer thrown in there, right? Stuff, but it's pretty cool. I think you dig it.
Did you write any new stuff too, or do you just re-recorded all the old stuff, or?
Well, we recorded the old demo as well. We did do a demo in the mid-90s or early mid-90s. So we decided to re-record that. We did our original 6 songs that we never got a chance to record, and we also have 3 or 4 new songs for something we're going to hopefully I'm going to try to get it done sometime this summer.
Well, that would be cool.
But the other two are out. Like I said, they're on the website. You can go check them out there.
Well, definitely will. We'll actually play some during this interview, too. So what were some of the other earlier bands that you've been in, Derek?
Well, I kind of got a late start into getting into anything professional. I mean, like, I moved down here in 96 to join Malevolent, right? And that was, like, the first, you know, like, known band that I was in or whatnot. But back home, man, I had several different bands from that band, the Deboning Method. I also played in a punk rock band named Bedlam Hour for a number of years. Went to Europe with those guys. It was hardcore punk rock type sounding stuff. I was also in a band called the Virgin Iron Pants, which was it was kind of like a Smiths kind of indie rock kind of thing, you know. Yeah, so I mean, I had my hands kind of in all types of stuff. I mean, I was doing cover band stuff, you know, playing hair metal shit, you know. Like I said, anything I could do to play with people. I really didn't have any limits or boundaries as to who I could or couldn't play with. I wasn't one of these guys that was like, oh, you know, screw that, I ain't playing with those guys or whatever. I didn't care. I would go play with whoever. I actually even tried to play with a group of funk guys that were doing like Parliament type stuff, you know, and I was really into that, but my pocket when I was, 16 just wasn't there. I mean, and that taught me a lot, actually, because those guys were all a lot older than me, and I was really trying to, like, develop my sense of groove, and because like one thing that I didn't hear in a lot of the metal stuff that I really liked is those particular drummers didn't have the type of grooves that, like, Steve Gadd or, a band like Steely Dan or Fleetwood Mac or, like some of like that real good feeling stuff about drumming. I didn't really hear a lot of that in metal, so that's why I kind of drew a lot of influences from all of those other styles. And I just, at the time, I wasn't a good enough player to be able to even to do that. I was too worried about how many chops I was going to play and where I was going to fit, 9/11, and, like, these guys are not about that at all, so it was a big learning experience for me,
Well, you were still developing your craft at the time anyways, whether you knew it or not. That's what was happening for you,
Yeah, well, me, even now, still to this day, it's funny because I'm like, I sat down just a minute ago, but I knew I was going to come in here and do this, so I went in. I've got a broadcast coming up with Drumeo, which is like a drum internet lesson site up in Canada. And I was going through, I haven't really done like the clinic thing in a while, and I haven't really played to tracks in a long time. So I went in there and I was kind of going through what I might play. And I was just really surprised at how easy it was. I got to say, like, doing this now is probably the easiest that it's ever been for me. It's really strange. I mean, obviously my endurance, I need to, I need to play with the band a good solid 3 or 4 days to really get my strength back as far as, like, holding tempos and that type of thing and not trailing off. But as far as, like, how I feel playing it, man, I can just jump right in and do this shit now, where before it was like I'd have to warm up for, 3 or 4 songs before I was feeling really good. And, I mean, I still, you still have to do that because it's a demanding style of music that you're playing. But now I just honestly feel like I can kind of just sit down and do everything that I've done in the past for the most part. Now I'm just trying to push forward with, development, whatever that might be. I have no idea. It's kind of like what you said, whether you know it or not, you're developing. And right now, I haven't seen it, but I can feel it, I can hear it.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so then it's just like you said, you've been playing for so many years that you conquer these things and you go on to the next thing and you conquer and you go on and you conquer. So it's like you said, the stuff that was so hard, you conquered that years ago. So now you're, getting older, Derek, and now with age comes.
And I think a lot of it is the experience of doing it. Like there's so many things over time of doing something like this that you learn, things not to do. And sometimes that stuff that you're not supposed to do is an automatic thing. Like, for instance, if anybody who lifts anything heavy, the first thing we do is hold our breath. Like anybody, whether it's the guy at the grocery store lifting a big box or over at Home Depot moving a washer and dryer, whatever it happens to be, most people will take a big gulp of air and then they'll do whatever they're going to strain and do. And that's like exactly the opposite of what you want to do. And it takes a little bit of time to break yourself of those natural habits, you know. But now, like over the course of time, the checklist goes through my mind before I ever even sit down at the drums about all the things I know not to do. So, and I think that makes it a whole lot easier because I'm less worried about the actual playing, and I'm more concerned about my mental game, you know?
There you go.
I don't know. It's weird.
So Derek, being one of Florida's sons now, tell us a little bit about then Malevolent, when you joined Malevolent Creation as well as Hate Eternal.
Well, I was home in a band named Creature, and honestly, still to this day, probably the best band I've ever been in. We literally, in 8 months, I think, missed 4 or 5 days of jamming. We played every single day, and we worked on stuff. We had a barrage of songs, and we were so tight and so killer. And it just seemed like, you know, not to say anything, it just always seems like situations in bands, there's always something, right? You know, so I kind of started feeling like I was just spinning my wheels a little bit after a little bit of this playing and doing things and seeing how things were going with us internally in the band. And I had heard from a friend of mine, like, hey, Malevolent's looking for a drummer. I heard Dave Koros quit. And I just said, screw it. So I called Pavement Records just one day out of the blue and said, look, I heard Phil's looking for a drummer. I'm the guy. About 15 minutes later, Phil called me and was like, dude, you got to come down and jam. You know? So I got in the car and drove my drums down. Funny thing was he didn't even remember I was coming. So I kind of drove all the way down there for nothing because I couldn't get in touch with Phil the first day. So I had to just, you know, wing it. And then I hooked up with him the next day and we jammed and that was it. So I ended up doing that. We wrote In Cold Blood. I spent maybe 9 or 10 months in the band or whatever. We recorded In Cold Blood, and I kind of realized during that point in time that, like, maybe these aren't the guys I need to be trying to do something serious with. They were great to play with. I love Phil, I love Jay, I love those guys to death. They're great friends, but just not the type of people I want to be in a band with. You know what I mean? As far as like what I want to accomplish musically, it's not the same thing as what they want to accomplish musically. So I got that pretty quickly, but I wanted to do the record and I wanted to get my name out there. So as soon as I did that, ironically, JP and Jay quit Malevolent, and we, as you know, we did that Divine Empire thing. Mm-hmm. And again, that was kind of against my better judgment. Again, I love those guys, but now I know. Again, being wiser, being older, mm-hmm. Being in a band. So, thankfully, we're all still friends, and we made it through all of that. But that's what led me to Hate Eternal, because Eric was more along the lines of where I saw myself musically and what I wanted to do. I wanted to conquer and take over the damn extreme metal scene. Like Malevolent, they didn't really care about that. They talked about wanting to do it, but when it came down time, it was just same old, So, but Eric had that drive, and especially Jared. And the three of us, I felt like, really it was unstoppable. It really was. In my eyes, the moment everything happened with Jared, that changed for me. Mm-hmm. But at that point in time, I believed in it so hard, and we were going so strong and doing, such good things, that when that all happened with Jared, it really everything just kind of came crashing down around me. I mean, I did a couple more tours and whatnot. We did another record, which honestly, I think Monarch's the best record that I did, but with Hate Eternal at least, mm-hmm. But it just wasn't the same. It was kind of like the fire was extinguished out of it for me. Mm-hmm. And over time, I just looked at how much it was costing me as far as like, we made some money, but it wasn't enough money. It wasn't enough money where I could actually come home with anything. It was enough money to pay for half of the time that I was gone,
Right.
And hey, that's that's my decision. Maybe I have a little more bills than other people that may have been in the band because we own a home and, I have a business and cars and, washer and dryer, things that,
right.
So, I need to make an X amount of dollar or I don't survive every month. And when I'm going out on tour and I'm making half of what I need, at some point I had to make a decision. I honestly think that maybe if Jared was still there, that it wouldn't have went down that same way. I don't know, but, and like I said, love Eric. So yeah, nothing against anybody that, that I've ever played with. I just needed to make a decision to do something else with my life, just personally, But I wouldn't trade that time for anything in the world. Any of that stuff that I did with Malevolent or Divine or, Eternal, even the Aurora Borealis and the Council of the Fallen and some of the other stuff that I got involved with. I never would trade any of that ever.
So Derek, you have your snake business going on. You still want to do that whole metal thing. So is that how you kind of started doing the whole Serpents Rise thing? You're your own boss in that.
Yeah, well, initially I had the idea for Serpents Rise since early 2000. Mm-hmm. I had been kind of sitting on it for a little bit and, writing stuff on the side. And I kind of thought that maybe, I would get a band together here in Fort Lauderdale was my initial thought, And I did, I had some guys. That's kind of how I met Randy and how he made his way into Hate Eternal, because Randy and I were playing together in what would eventually was, in my eyes, was going to become Serpents Rise, But Randy ended up coming into Hate Eternal, and I kind of put it on hold, but I was still writing a lot of music. And then when I stepped out of Hate Eternal, I really started looking for people around here, and I would find guys, but they would come, and then they would talk to me, and they know that I didn't want to sign a record deal, or I didn't want to go on tour or whatever, and then they just wouldn't show back up anymore, Or they would use me as a stepping stone to get in Monstrosity or Vader or some other band, like, I've been playing with Derek Roddy and blah, 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 And that happened several times. And finally, I just said, you know what, fuck it. I give up. I'm just going to do everything myself because I'm tired of looking for people. Mm-hmm. And still, to this day, everybody that I play with is out of town. From the Deboning Method, half of the guys in Deboning Method, and there's a couple other guys that live out of Florida that are doing Serpents Rise with me right now. There are a couple of guys that I have locally that I'm playing with. The Great Die is my local extreme metal band, and we're playing, but Carlos, our bass player, just had a baby. Well, he didn't, his wife did, about 5-6 months ago, and we've been on hiatus, so nothing going on there. My other band, which is like a prog rock band, is called Life Ever After. Everybody is just so busy in their careers that we just can't ever actually get anything done. Now, thankfully, that situation in Life Ever After is coming to fruition. All of a sudden, there's 8 songs sitting on my desktop right now that I need to record drums for. Which is cool because we would come up here and jam. We were the type of players that me and the bass player and the guitar player, we would get together and I would just record, and we would record 2 hours worth of music, and dang if like 70% of it wasn't something usable. So what happened is we ended up with so much music to record that we just got buried under it, and we couldn't, decide on ideas or anything. Finally, I just threw my hands up in there and I said, you know what, screw it. You guys figure it out and come back, whenever you guys have it together. And that's exactly what happened. Gio sat around with a lot of the stuff, and Doug sat around with some stuff, and now all of a sudden we have 8 songs. So it's just, that type of stuff when you're working like that, it's just what happens sometimes. You get sidetracked and life just derails you in other ways, shapes and forms, and you just kind of do it when you can do it,
And now you got all those songs that you got to do the drum tracks for because you told them,
Yep. Well, I've already got a couple of them done, so we're doing it. It's going to be knocked out soon.
So, Derek, tell us a little bit now about this whole Natter Sadek thing. How did you get involved with that?
Natter and I met through the internet. Oh my God, maybe in 2000. Mm-hmm. 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. He was doing some type of project for college. I can't remember what it was now, but he had contacted me and he got in touch and needed me to help him do this. It was in relationship with drumming and rhythmical phrasing or something. I don't remember, and how it related to mechanics of something. I don't remember. But, and he was friends with Jared. Initially, Jared was supposed to do the first, like Nighter stuff, like In the Flesh and whatnot, apparently. And when all of that happened and Jared unfortunately left us and everything, I guess Tucker and Nighter started talking, and it just kind of went from there. I don't know how everybody got involved at that point or remember, but, Nighter just recontacted me out of the blue on Facebook one day and was like, hey, I've got a show. This was in 2014, was it? October. We went out and did some shows in California and New York and Canada. And he called me, I don't know, a month ahead of time or hit me up on Facebook and was like, just asked if I would be interested. I was already familiar with the music and stuff and liked it, so I figured, yeah, why not? Why not do it? So, and it's easy for me because I can go and I can do shows and I can play and I don't have to commit to going on tour and throwing my life in turmoil, just because I want to, express my art for people. So it's a good situation for me, and I'm devoted to it as much as he needs me to do it. It's fine. I've recorded all of these songs for him now, 12 songs I've done for him now. It's going to be coming out here this year. So, yeah, it's a cool thing, it is what it is.
And it's like you said, too, you don't have to really commit to huge tours with him, but still you're doing stuff, You're going to places, and now you're playing this show in Florida, which will be fun, on your own home turf, and I believe Glenn's going to be there. You're going to have all these great Florida musicians in there.
It should be cool. Yeah, it's cool. I'm used to traveling and stuff because I still do a lot of clinics and drum-related things and whatnot, so it's nice to actually play with a band. That's the one thing I've been missing so much in the last, several years. I mean, obviously coming here and jamming with people, it's not the same thing as getting something together and going out and presenting it for people and, doing a website, doing the logos, and it's having something camaraderie with the people that are in your band and a belief system and a support system for each other and knowing that, they're going to do what's best for the band and their particular, 25% or whatever it is that they're putting in, that's what I miss. Because, to be completely honest, most of the bands I've been in have not been bands at all. They've just been assemblances of people that play music written by somebody. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, I've never actually been in a band where everybody felt like they were a part of it, where it's always like somebody's got to call the shots or somebody's got to be the one that's like, oh, this is my stuff, play it like this or whatever, without realizing, if you ever notice, those particular bands are the bands that always have a constant revolving door of people and no real fan base. It's like, to me, if you're going to do a band, then the moment a member leaves, that band is done, in my opinion. So I am looking for something that I might not ever be able to actually find or might not even exist at this point, but I would like to find some people that if we put something together that is low pressure enough that everybody would want to stick around and stay and not make anybody feel like they're excluded and not make anybody feel like that they need to do more than, what's commanded of them or what's needed of them in the band. It's like, that's just such a hard situation to find. It's the reason I don't play with people. You think I haven't been asked to play with every dang band that needs a freaking drummer? Of course.
Right.
But just to me, to go up there to take a minimal paycheck to do something for somebody else that in the long run doesn't even really appreciate it, because it could be anybody as far as they're concerned. I mean, that's not what I'm looking to do, I'm not looking to do that. I don't know.
No, and I think a lot of that has to do with today's day and age and the mentality of people and the technology and just people being lazy, and there's just so much that feeds into that, what you're saying, as not just a band but as a society in a whole, that Derek, You just might not ever find what you're looking for. We got Serpents Rise. That's your baby still.
And I've come to that realization. You know, I mean, it's literally it's been that realization for a long time. You know, it's like I'm not going to ever find anybody that truly wants to create music with other people and let those people have their individual voice and let them contribute what they want to contribute. Like, for instance, when I was doing Serpents Rise, I used to know the stuff on guitar, right? Because I recorded all of it, right? I used to know all of this stuff. Well, I got tired of teaching people. I mean, I literally showed that stuff to about 8 or 9 different guitar players. And finally, I just said, fuck it. I'm not going to show this to anybody anymore. And I gave up on it. And I didn't play it, didn't do anything with it. And then about 8-10 months rolls by and a guitar player comes around and he's like, man, I'd love to play that Serpents Rise stuff. I said, all right, well, figure it out. He said, well, what do you mean? Don't you know the riffs? I said, no, I don't know the riffs. Get as close as you can. I said, and honestly, put your fingerprint on it, man, because I want you to be you. And he looked at me like I had 4 freaking fucking heads. I mean, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. And he had no idea what to do with me. What do you mean? You're not going to tell me what to play? Like every band I've been in, everybody's told me what to play. I said, well, that's not a band. A band is when somebody that creates will let you be you. You know, and I wanted people to put their stamp on it. I wanted people to come in and play it slightly different. You know, that's the beauty of having other beings play with you. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why I love what Nader's doing so much, because I've recorded songs that have been recorded by other versions of this band before. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to put out stuff that's already been recorded by a different version of the band, and it sounds and feels completely different. Mm-hmm. Even though they're the same songs, you know. So to me, that's the beauty of even having band members. Otherwise, do it yourself.
That's true.
You know, like it doesn't. I don't get it. Like all these, dictatorship type bands where people are like, oh, this is my music. You got to play it my way. It's the way it's written. That's what. You know, like it has a fan base. The music doesn't even have a fan base until you get it out to people. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't understand like how. I get it to a certain degree. Like for a drummer, it's easy because the music kind of dictates what you're going to play anyway. You know what I mean? Like for a drummer, it's more about the colors you choose to paint with. You know, because if a guitar player presents a riff to me, it's going to be 1 or 2 beats that's going to go over it. And how I choose to color it is how I choose to color it, you know? Mm-hmm. It's not like this whole mystical thing of creating drum parts is like, that's a myth. That doesn't happen. The music does that for us drummers, you know? Mm-hmm. It's a natural process that happens when you hear a riff. You go, oh yeah, whatever comes to mind is the most natural progression of what that piece of music should be. In my opinion, you know, if you're sitting there trying to write stuff to be complicated for the sake of being complicated, your band will never do shit. You know, it's got to be natural in some way, shape, or form. You know, so I don't know. It's like for me, it's just I feel like the commemorative effort of what it actually means to be in a band like died in the 70s. To be honest, I don't know.
Well, you know, it's funny, too, when you mention how you have guitar players coming to you wanting to play your music and then wanting you to show them exactly what they have to do and not even willing to put some kind of creativity in it. But we know with drummers, too, you all have a different style. You can't really... At least I don't see it where somebody could give you some music and make you play exactly like that, because you can't. Everybody has their own different style. Everybody's bodies move the different way. Everybody's hands move. It's never going to sound the same, you know?
You can play the exact notes, but the feel and the swing of it,
right.
It's never going to be what somebody programs on a machine, you know? And that's the thing, like and it's funny because I know 1,001 guitar players in their bedroom writing songs, and they go out and they try to play with people, and they can't get past the fact that, you know, they can't play with the drummer like they can with the drum machine, and they can't get past that. And then they end up being a bedroom warrior for 10 or 15 years, and then, oh God, where'd the time go? Mm-hmm. 5 years has already gone by for a lot of these guys. You know what I mean? And 5 years, it's like literally, that's the life expectancy of any band doing anything nowadays. It's only 5 years, if that. So if you're going to spend 5 years in your bedroom just trying to get out of it, what chance do you actually really have?
That is very true. Now, Derek, did you say you're still doing the drum clinics and stuff like that?
Yeah, totally. I'm going, like I said, up to Drumeo here in a couple weeks to do that. After I play, I have to pack my drums up at Tampa and drive home because I'm flying out the next day to Vancouver.
Oh, boy.
So that's going to be a nice long evening.
And what about, like, books and DVDs? Like, you were doing all that stuff for a while. You still doing that stuff or want to still do that stuff?
Educational stuff, yeah. I mean, it doesn't have a market anymore. Like, DVDs are completely...
Yeah, with YouTube and everything, yeah.
Yeah, the sales of DVDs, I don't want to get into it because, honestly, you wouldn't believe how bad it is. I mean, for like a company like Hudson, for example, that puts out my DVDs and Thomas Lang, and you wouldn't believe how bad the sales are, realistically. I mean, it boggles the mind, realistically, that it could even be that bad. But it is, and that's not the important thing. For me, it's always been about trying to support the dealer as far as the drum thing is concerned. But now, that market is fading away too because a lot of the independent people that were doing those types of things to bring people in their stores are not there anymore because of Guitar Center, Musician's Friend, and different other pieces that are out there. You're noticing more and more that mom and pop shops are going out of business because they just can't compete in the pricing, with Guitar Center and the shipping and everything. So they just go away, and that in turn, gets rid of the market for clinics and education and that type of stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not plenty of market for things education-wise, like as far as these drum camps.
Right.
Thomas Lang has been doing drum camps for a while. Actually, Virgil Donati and myself, we're going to be doing a drum camp here in Florida sometime in May or June of 2017.
Wow.
So it's just going to be me and him, and probably done at some type of inclusive hotel or something here in the area in Fort Lauderdale, or maybe even west coast of Florida somewhere. I don't know. We haven't really decided on the details, but we're trying to look for a venue right now, and maybe that would host us for it. So that type of stuff is doing really well, and just individual drum performances. If you can get in good with some of the local music stores that are in the area, whether it's Sam Ash or Guitar Center or the mom and pop stores or whatever, just being able to go over and offer to do some type of educational thing. Typically that turns into a bunch of lessons, for the next couple months for me. If I go somewhere, or if I happen to do a clinic somewhere, or maybe I'll go, it's not necessarily a clinic, but maybe I do a product training at a store, for example, and then I'll spend 2 or 3 days there in town doing lessons on my own. So there's plenty of market out there. It's just different.
Right. Right.
It's a different thing. It's not coming from a third-party source anymore like it used to come. It's direct, one-on-one, interaction that's happening. Skype lessons. I do a lot of Skype lessons as far as that's concerned, and that ends up being okay in the long run because if you get enough people a month, education there's a value on it, and that's the thing. Like, people always want to know what it is that you do that's different from what they do. And there's always going to be a market for that type of thing. It's just, like I said, it's a different type of approach you have to take to get to it, right?
Right, and Derek, earlier in our interview, we were talking about when you're drumming and how you don't see, at least back in the day, probably not too much anymore either, you don't just see a lot of groove in metal drumming. And I wanted to ask you about that too, because for me personally, noticing just some of these younger drummers, especially within the past 10 years, the emphasis always seems to be on speed. How fast can we go? How fast can we go? So what are your thoughts on, speed and groove and what's going on in the drum world today?
Well, to me, they're not a separate thing. I mean, just because something's fast doesn't mean that it can't groove.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So therein lies what I'm talking about. And certain drummers are just better at it than others, you know. But there are like you said, every drummer's got their personality. Every drummer's got their own feel. But does that feel translate to the audience in the most efficient way that it could? Some drummers yes, some drummers no. You know, so like if you look at a guy like Gene Hoglan, for example, like Gene grooves the hell out of everything he plays.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, I mean, so granted he's not playing 260 and above or whatnot. I mean, there does come a point to where I just get lost, you know, in some of the tempo stuff. Some of it I can feel, some of it I can't. Again, and that could be differentiated by what drummer is playing what part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some drummers that like they play in that 240 to 250 range and it feels great, but then they get above that, it don't feel that great anymore. Or they get that and it doesn't feel all that solid anymore. Or, you know, and there's some drummers that are really good in high-end tempos, but then when they get slower, it's a little bit weird, you know, like, so it's all individual to me. To me, everything grooves. It's just what appeals to you. Like, I had a conversation recently with the guy that was talking. He was doing another college thesis, whether groove could be quantifiable or not. Whether, you know, meaning that is it something that is actually obtainable? Like, if you don't have it, can you obtain it? And I say no. I think that groove is in the ear of the listener. It's in the heart of the listener, right? Because, like, I can listen to stuff that certain drummers play and go, damn, man, that just moves me to no degree. And then other guys would be like, man, that sucks. There's no feel, no nothing, you know, like, okay. And then some guy would tell me, oh, man, you got to hear this song, man. This dude's grooving his ass off. And it does absolutely nothing for me. You know, so to me, I don't think, like, groove is not quantifiable to me. It's not something that can be obtained or something that actually even exists. It's made up a feel that's made, you know, in your internalization of what you're hearing, right? And some people have a broader reach as far as like, you know, the amount of people they can reach with their feel. Mm-hmm. You know, a drummer like Steve Gadd. Like, Steve Gadd is one of the most recorded drummers in history because his feel, the way he plays, touches a whole shit ton of people. Me personally, I don't get it. I love Gadd, but his playing has never really touched me in a way that like Jeff Porcaro's playing touched me. Mm-hmm. Or even Bonham. But even Bonham, I'm not really too crazy about, but I feel more in Bonham's playing than I do Gadd's playing. And people look at me like I have six heads, like other drummers are like, dude, you're out of your mind, but Gadd's the man. Yeah, I know, he is the man. I get it. Just does nothing for me.
So groove is in the ear of the listener, more or less, then.
That's what I feel. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are, like I said, there are certain drummers that, because of the style of music they play and because of the environment that they put themselves in, is more conclusive of being labeled a groove player.
Right.
Right? So, like, you know, Gadd playing with Paul Simon is going to be easier to say, you know, oh man, Gadd grooves than it is me and Hate Eternal.
Right.
So if you ask most people, they'll tell you that Hate Eternal stuff grooves its ass off. Mm-hmm. And that's simply because it was something that, you know, that's something that I spent a lot of time trying to obtain, you know?
Right.
And just like I have a broader feel, I think, because I have a broader understanding of other musical styles than, say, some of my peers, maybe. And I can always tell when I listen to a drummer how broad their vocabulary is and their musical taste. Mm-hmm. I can always hear it immediately. I can tell you, like, exactly what drummers listen to and what they play. So it's an interesting thing. Like, once you get to that ear development point is kind of crucial. You know what I mean?
You're almost like a drum profiler, Derek.
Yeah, totally.
So, Derek, what's some of the current gear and drums and cymbals and stuff like that you're using now?
I'm still pretty much playing on the same stuff I was when we talked last. I still have that same green, dirty aquarium kit that I love. I haven't had a better sounding kit as far as overall ever in my life, really. So I'm still just kind of beating that thing around. I've got this black DW kit that you see behind me back here.
That's pretty, yep.
And just the Mino cymbals, pretty much still on the same setup and whatnot. Vader drumsticks, Axis pedals, Remo drum heads.
So here's an Ian McDonald question for you, right? This is a question that he asked somebody else that I interviewed. What is the oldest piece of equipment that you have that you still use?
That I still use on my kit right now? My Axis pedals, without a doubt.
There you go. And how many years have you been using those?
I bought them in 1990.
There you go. And you're still, yeah. He's really interested in that kind of important stuff, Derek.
Well, and the funny thing is, those, obviously I've sent them back to Axis and they've refurbished them and put bearings in them and, made them new again or whatnot. But the same, actual Axis chassis, the main frame of the pedal is the same one I bought in 91.
Wow.
90, whenever it was. So yeah, same stuff. I still have a set of Zildjian cymbals that I bought in the late 80s. And every once in a while I'll use them to record something with. They're just kind of an acquired taste that not a lot of cymbals, modern day cymbals, really sound like that, I also still have Peisty sets of cymbals that I've gotten in the mid 90s, early mid 90s. Some of these, I don't know if you can see this, snare drums. I have some older Sonar drums in here from the late 80s.
Oh yeah,
early 90s and stuff, but a lot of them they just kind of sit there and just look pretty.
but you can't.
I have a couple of really old Jackson guitars. I don't know if you can see those on the wall over there.
Oh sure, yeah.
I've kind of got a collection of mid to late 80s Jacksons going. I like collecting gear. It's kind of a fun thing for me. So
yeah, the nice stuff. Yeah, and yeah, it looks great. And I saw your little aquarium green snare over there too. Was that over there too? Is that what I saw over there?
Well, they made me several different snares to match the kit. I always used that same DW bronze. Phosphor bronze 6x14 drum that drum is just, it does everything so killer, and I never have a need to use all of that other stuff. It's just sitting there. Well, I used to use it all when I needed it, but until I got those bronze drums, whether it was the Sonar one or the DW one, either or, they just kind of do everything. So I like them.
You have them there just in case an emergency, Derek.
Case.
You never know. So, Derek, what do you think is the key to becoming a successful drummer?
Define successful first. To me, if you get to a level, physically or, monetarily or, for physically, for me, if you can get to a level where you can play anything that comes to mind with a fair amount of efficiency and confidence, I would say that's successful. Mm-hmm. As actually being a drummer. You know what I mean? Everything else kind of, we're all limited by our imagination, and some of us can imagine more than others. You look at a drummer like Virgil, who's imagining 5 against 6 against 7 against 8 at one time on a human body. I would have never even, why? Yeah, but he uses it, and he does cool things with it, and wows people with it, and it's a bizarre talent. It's a cool thing to witness. Would I have thought of it? Not necessarily. So, that to me lies the differences of what success is in a drummer. Whatever your brain, believes to be your success is, that's what you should go for, I guess, as far as the playing part. As far as the monetary part, if you want to be a successful drummer, then go to school and get a career and something that's going to pay you some money. And then that way you can do drums, and you don't have to worry about whether you have to have a GoFundMe account or, You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of opportunity out there to set yourself up in life to where you could do, both. You could have a successful career, make lots of money, do well for yourself, and express yourself through music and drumming. And that's one thing I get tired of it all the time, and I hear it all the time. I used to hear it in every single band I've ever been in. Well, it's either this or flipping burgers. It's like, man, glad to know you think so highly of yourself. Maybe I need to be playing with different people. And over and over and over again, that's what I started hearing. It's better doing this than flipping burgers. And like, I'm talking to mid-30-year-old people at this point. Well, I mean, honestly, man, if you don't have any more ambition for yourself than to, starve on tour or to starve in real life, then what ambition do you have, period? And why am I playing with you? I mean, so if you want to be successful doing this, that's going to require you to have money in your pocket to be able to do it. Because right now, going out there and just eating shit just for the sake of your art, that's cool for a couple years, but it gets old really quick. Especially when you're in your 40s.
Right. So, Derek, I know you got a student waiting there for you, so I won't keep you too much longer. But so, what are the things other than Natter Satic that we got to be watching out coming from you?
Okay, Natter Satic, 12 songs. My band here, The Great Die, we're going to have a 5-song EP out probably in the next 2 months. My prog rock band, Life Ever After, that's probably going to take another 2 or 3 months as well. I hope to have a new the deboning method, maybe end of summer, 5 songs maybe. What else is on the back burner? Oh yes, the Traumedy stuff that never actually got recorded from John Staremski. He recovered a lot of his files, as we were talking about earlier, and he's slowly getting me those. I'm going to have to re-record all the drums, but that was like, 16 songs of some really awesome material that people need to hear. I mean, people did hear it. I mean, some of that stuff I posted, and it got over 100,000 downloads. Wow. I mean, people off a lot, so we just need to get it finished and get it done, so that's going to happen. Oh yeah, Jim Ross. You know Jim Ross, right?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Hey, yeah, his band, Band Whore. I did 6 or 7 songs on his release coming up. I'm gonna have some more stuff with Jim actually coming up as well. Not sure exactly what that's gonna be, but Jim is probably the most productive musical person I have ever met in my life. He is beyond incredible. I would take Jim in my band faster than anybody I think I've ever played with. I wish he was closer to me, man. He's up in Jacksonville. It's about 5 hours away from me, 4.5 hours, so it's a little bit of a trek to come down here just to rock out. But I wish he was around. I really do. Closer, But I'm sure we'll be doing a lot of stuff in the future. And other than that, that's about it. I don't really think there's anything else. Like, I can't really put too much more on my plate right now.
No, that sounds like plenty right there. Plus your business and your students and your clinics. And I think you got to...
Yeah, I forgot. Kevin Curion and Scott Patrick and I re-recorded that first Council of the Fallen release. So I'm sitting on that. I have all the tracks here. I just have it. I got to sit down and mix it and just render out some copies of it. But yeah, we did that too, and that's something else I'm sitting on that I need to finish. Oh God! And then the material with Rustin Gross. Do you know Rustin? He was playing Johnson Master.
Yes, of course.
Okay, we have 4 or 5 songs as well that are sitting on a hard drive right now that need to be completed. Our problem has been a bass player and another guitar player, because that stuff is really teched out and it's really difficult to play. It's not really all that fast or anything, but it takes a lot of brain power to get through those songs, and it's been really hard trying to find people that want to spend the time to learn it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even have a name right now. We were calling it the Black Curtain. Because it was kind of like an inside joke, because I have a black curtain hanging in front of my door in the rehearsal room, and Rustin is like huge, he's like 18 feet tall. So like anytime he comes in, he's always getting caught up in that thing, and like, this black curtain, So we were calling it the Black Curtain for a while as a joke, but that might actually end up being the name of it.
Well, that's kind of a cool name, actually.
It has an inside meaning,
It does. So Derek, if people want to, just in case you do something else that we didn't mention, where can people, could people just go to like your Facebook page? Do you have a website out there?
Yeah, well, DerekRoddy.com, that's my site. And then you can also, Facebook, Facebook me. I have a lessons group on there called Derek Roddy's Lessons Group. Mm-hmm. Anybody can join it or whatever. And I usually share most of my drumming craziness with the guys over there. It's kind of a continuation of my forum that I used to have back in the day. So a lot of the same guys are kind of there that were in my forum. Mm-hmm. So we all kind of hang out, and a bunch of knucklehead drummers and throwing feedback around from one another, just kind of testing the waters with the whole internet thing, and uploading and being able to watch people. It's a cool thing,
So Derek, sounds like you're going to be keeping out of trouble for the next decade. So
right.
And I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to do this interview with us. It's always such a pleasure talking to you and getting your great insight onto all these things. And all the best to you. And whenever you have any of these albums that are going to come out, just let me know. We'll get that stuff right out for you.
Awesome. And if you need me to send you anything, if you don't have anything that I mentioned, hit me up and I'll send it to you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for doing this. And continue on with your student waiting out there for a half an hour.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen.
Terry.